Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at the velocity intake system. This is offered from Pwrtune, Pwrtune, from Malone Motorsports. So what this is a replacement to the stock air intake, which is going to be over here on the RZR S 900. So this is going to be specific to the 15 and up 900 models. But one of the big things with this, you can see, is that slot in there. It makes air intake really restrictive to the throttle body, which is right back here. So Pwrtune's come up with a solution. It's this aluminum intake tube, and you can see it's pre-fitted for the vent hose. So I'm actually going to install just this piece right here, as well as the new couplers. So he sent me out the new air filter as well as the adapter, and this is actually for an airbox delete. So if I lived out west and rode the dunes, I would actually do that part. It removes the stock airbox completely, and then you would just kind of have this filter exposed. However, I ride the Midwest and I get in too much mud, so I really didn't want to go that route, just to risk doing some damage that way. But for you West Coasters, I think that'll be a really ideal mod for you guys. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get to the install process. Our first step to get to everything we need to do, we need to remove the engine compartment from the back. Just set that out of the way, and then we're gonna remove this plastic here. You're gonna remove these 4 torx bolts, torx screws. You're gonna come around into the cab and remove, I believe it's 4 across there as well, and then one on the top that's already out. Okay, now when you remove the plastic airbox cover on the top of the firewall, you're going to want to go for a deep well 11mm socket. You're going to come up here to this nut, you're going to loosen it up, and that'll loosen the intake tube from the airbox. And then you're going to come down to the throttle body, same, I believe it's 11mm also. Yep. And you're going to loosen that one up, and it'll loosen the intake from the throttle body. It's easiest just to use a deep well if you've got one handy, so you can get over that, or you can just use a regular end wrench or box wrench. So to make this process a little bit easier, what you're going to want to do is come back to these 13mm bolts that hold the airbox in, and loosen those up. Then come here to this hose clamp. It's an 8mm or a flathead wrench, or a screwdriver, excuse me, if you want to use that. Okay, you want to take that loose, then you're going to need to wrestle this for a minute. Take that intake piece off. Then come around to the side of the airbox. You should be able to separate it, from the whole intake tube that we're going to be replacing. Okay, then once you've separated the intake tube from the airbox, you're going to want to come down to that hose clamp right there. That's that vent hose. It's another 8mm. You may need to get a screwdriver to get in there to that one, but you're going to want to disconnect that as well. So then from there, what we're going to do is separate stock intake tube from the throttle body. Okay, so this part took a little bit of convincing, but after you disconnect it from the airbox, that's going to be in there. And what you want to do is pull this side down, and it's ribbed, it's kind of flexible, and once you get it kind of to this angle, you should be able to pull it straight off. And here's kind of a quick side-by-side comparison of what you're going to be changing up to. Obviously that aluminum's going to look a little nicer, and you're not going to be so restricted right here, and that body of it. Okay, so you're going to take the coupler included with the kit, clean up around your throttle body if you need to. Just be careful you don't get anything stuck in there.
I'm going to have to loosen the hose clamp on the other end.
Okay, then you're going to want to visually inspect to make sure that you've got it seated all the way up. Come to the top and look. And in additional verification, you can just simply look inside the coupler to be sure everything's fitting around there. Okay, So we just got the coupler on the throttle body, and it says to seat it all the way and then come back about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so I've backed off lip just a tad, and then I've got it secured in with this new hose clamp. What we're going to do now is come to the other coupler. Want the 90-degree elbow coupler, and it is going to install on the end with the vent nipple there. And you want this because it's going to install like this. You're going to want the elbow towards the airbox in that direction. Okay, now I've got the coupler on there. Nothing's really fitted up yet, still except for this hose clamp here. So I just loosely put on this vent hose. It's going to fit up to there, and this is actually a larger outer diameter than the part that sticks in. It ends about right here. So get that up there. And the instructions do call out that you may end up having to trim here on the plastic. It doesn't look like I'm going to have to trim mine. It's easy to fish back in there. I've got it installed back into the throttle body. So what I'm going to do now is button back up the airbox and seal up all the hose clamps. Okay guys, so when you get everything back together, make sure you get your 30mm bolts back in the back of the airbox. Put back on this intake tube over here, and then get your coupler all snugged up. I opted to have the screw heads facing that way just because it'd be easier to get to with my 1/4 inch impact. Those are again 8mm bolts or screws. Don't go too terribly tight on them because this is rubber. I mean, you're tightening it up against metal, and if you get too much pinching, you may end up cracking that rubber. You're going to have 2 hose clamps here. Again, make sure those are snugged up, and you should be able to feel how far in the intake tube is just by your hand. And here is a good side shot of what it looks like. So again, you should have a lot less restriction. The one thing to note that this will impede on is going to be one of the clutch cover screws right there. It's not going to be too terribly bad, and you should still be able to get the clutch cover off, no problem. But do note that it is going to obstruct that somewhat. And then make sure you also get your vent line snugged up there as well. Be sure to check out Pwrtune if you're interested in this. They also do ECU reflashes. Hint hint. About to do another video on that, and I will post some results in the ECU reflash video of the performance upgrades. So thanks again for Pwrtune for working with me on this. Be sure to check out the velocity intake system, and like, comment, and subscribe on the video, and I'll catch you next time.